Derek, I'd like it if you could maybe start out and tell me a little bit about your poultry production operation. I mean, where are you located? How many years you've been raising broilers, and what do you enjoy most about what you do?
That's a great question. We're located in Mildmay, Ontario. Not many people would know Mildmay. However, it's about 2 hours northwest of Toronto, or for my American friends, I say about 3 hours straight north of Detroit. I'm a third generation poultry farmer. My grandpa started the operation in 1967. My father continued, took over in about 1970, and I took over from him about 12 years ago. Um, on our farm, we raise about 120,000 broilers per cycle, and we do it antibiotic free and have done so for about the last 12 years. I love challenge. I love the challenge of broiler farming, and I love the fact that I can maybe mess it up, but then in 4 to 5 to 6 weeks, I can start again and try something new.
What are some of the challenges poultry producers face as it relates, maybe production challenges, labor challenges, data challenges?
So for me in my operation, and I think it's not common in my operation, a lot of the challenges would be management itself. Genetics have come a long way over the last 20 to 30 years, and we're not raising the same bird that we were raising in years past. If we mess it up from a management perspective, if we mess up a day, if we mess up hours, we can certainly not let that bird express its genetic potential. So that would be one of the challenges. Another one would be the consumer shifts in their demands with respect to welfare and antibiotic use. So every time we pull an antibiotic out, or every time we get a welfare standard that we have to adhere to, it certainly can provide some challenges to the people actually managing the birds on the ground.
What type of solutions have you found to help address some of the challenges we you just talked about?
Yeah, you've asked $1 million question, and I'm going to give you $1,000 answer. Um, there's a lot of things that we look at. Certainly, nutritional additives, but again, going back to data management, benchmarking ourselves. We know that genetic companies they give us a standard growth rate per day, a standard water consumption, a standard feed consumption. If we can measure those things daily, we can know that if we're doing something that's not optimal for those birds. Before we started to benchmark ourselves, we just looked and hoped that as long as birds, we didn't see elevated mortality, we thought everything was good. But again, we weren't maybe having that optimum environment for those birds without knowing whether they were gaining or expressing genetic potential. Because we know when an animal expresses genetic potential, it's relatively stress free and happy.
In your operation, when it comes to data, I mean, what data points are most important for you?
In our operation, definitely hands down, the most important is our daily weight. We watch that and monitor it twice a day. We have scales tied into our edge controller that when we go into the barn, and we can see online if those birds are tracking on their weight gain. Well, because we know if they're not, there's an issue that we will need to address. Secondly, would be water consumption, and we monitor it somewhat the same way. So weight and water consumption would be the two key things for us that we're looking at.
How long have you been using the edge controller in your operation?
Our first two new barns in quite some time, which was about 5 to 6 years ago, we installed an edge controller. And before that, I won't say we're using an abacus, but it was something quite antiquated like that. So the move to the edge controller was moving into something like Star Wars for us. It was a big change for myself and our farm manager, who just at the same time got his first iPhone. Um, but I'll tell you what, it's been fairly simple to use and easy to navigate through.
How does Edge help you identify factors that may be impacting your production or your profitability?
Being able to tie in online. And there's a lot of times where my farm manager and I don't communicate the best, but I can go online with its capabilities, check out what's going on, the settings that he has in there. And again, to monitor that growth rate real time, to monitor water consumption, to look at humidity levels, That's a big thing. As well, in our environment up here in Canada, we get a lot of snow. We've got bin scales tied into our edge controller, where I can dial in, and my feed mill can dial in, look at the remaining levels of feed in the tank. I don't have to climb that icy ladder. It doesn't sound like much, but seriously, it's a lot when it's minus 30 and blowing to climb that ladder and start knocking on that bin
Yeah.
to see how much feed's left.
How does Edge help you automate aspects of your poultry production process?
So when I look at bin scales, that would be a step forward for me in our operation, that I can track real time feed consumption. That's a big step. Well, I look at, we're also tied into CO2 sensors. So in making a decision on how to ventilate in Canada, uh, we can be a little thrifty on not wanting to spend a lot of money on gas or propane to ventilate. So for me, humidity and CO2 would be the two main indicators of me needing to ventilate more if those levels are elevated. Without those CO2 sensors or humidity sensors tied into my edge, I'm guessing, right? I'm going by feel. It looks good, but I don't, you never really know. But if I can see it before it gets bad, either CO2 or humidity, I can react a lot quicker before I lose the litter.
Derek, as you look to the future, how will technology like Edge help the poultry industry evolve or even help you evolve your management style?
I would say for me, probably 15 years ago, I recognized the importance of benchmarking and looking at data, real time data. And I think other industries have taken big data forward, and I think this is a huge opportunity for the poultry industry to start analyzing data and learning from what's happening in our farms, in our barns, and being able to make corrections based on a lot of numbers, right? Making those small fine-tuned corrections that can mean a lot at the end of the year. So when I see the future, I see real-time data coming from that controller, going to a central database, collecting it all, and actually at the end of the flock making recommendations or pointing out things like, hey, when your temperature dips below a certain point, your bird stopped eating. Because I don't know that right now, and that could happen for an hour, and I could totally miss it. So for me, that would be big going forward.
Derek, how would you sum up the value of the Edge controller to your operation?
Compared to what I used to run and have, controlling my poultry houses, uh, the edge is paid for itself in a matter of no time. Again, being able to real time track data is critically important for me. I love the data, and there's been many days where I just leave it run and watch it run in the background, and watch my birds literally gain weight, or watch my fans run all day, every day. So for me, that's important. I get a level of comfort knowing that things are working as they should when I'm not there.
It sounds like you've got a really good close relationship with your Cumberland dealer and Cumberland in general. I mean, how would you sum up the support you receive from Cumberland?
A1. Honestly, the Cumberland folks that I deal with here in Canada have been awesome. I can literally pick up my phone, and I could probably do it during this call and call the service guy from Cumberland. And if he didn't get back to me within an hour, I'd be surprised. They've been great to work with. Again, for us, there was so much to learn. It was so new, and they really walked us through. The Cumberland folks in Canada have been fantastic.
I mean, what advice would you give to another poultry producer who may be considering installing or selecting a controller?
I look at how this industry's changed just over the last 10 years, and looking at any controller going forward, you want to look for the potential to expand or upgrade the controller. There's things coming that we just don't have or know about yet, but having the ability to upgrade the software or collect data, I think that's going to be critically important going forward.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Derek. Thank you for joining us today. If you would like more information about the Edge controller, please visit a Cumberland dealer or go to cumberlandpoultry.com.